Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. This is attorney Adrian Pandev, and today we're going to talk about the new registration requirement for foreign nationals in the US. As background, on April 11, 2025, USCIS issued an update in which it requires all foreign nationals in the US for more than 30 days to register with US immigration. So my goal with this video is to go through who needs to register, who is exempt from registration because many individuals in the US are considered already registered, and kind of clarify many of the questions that I've been receiving over the last 2 weeks or so. So first and foremost, the rule says that if you're over the age of 14 in the US for more than 30 days, you have to register based on the process that USCIS published on their website. If you're under the age of 14, your parents are required to register for you. So basically, parents have to register for children under the age of 14. However, a long list of individuals who are in the US in valid status are considered registered already. So before I go into the whole registration process itself, I want to cover these categories of individuals because I've been getting a lot of phone calls, a lot of requests, a lot of questions from people about whether or not they need to register, and many of them fall into these exceptions. So the following individuals are considered already registered. First and foremost, permanent residents. So if you're a permanent resident, you've got a green card, no matter if it's a conditional green card or a 10-year green card, you are considered already registered. Similarly to that, I had a few people ask me who are naturalized US citizens, you're not even considered registered. You're a US citizen, you're not a foreign national. So similarly, to permanent residents, as a US citizen, even if you're naturalized, you do not need to register, okay? Anyone that's applied or received an employment authorization document, in that process, you were fingerprinted. You can't receive an employment authorization document without providing biometrics, without providing fingerprints to USCIS. So if you've received an employment authorization document, even if it's expired, you are considered registered. Similarly to that, if you've ever applied for any benefit with USCIS where you were fingerprinted, so say you've applied for permanent residence and you filed an adjustment of status application and you were fingerprinted, that means that you are considered to be registered because you provided your biometrics. US immigration knows you're in the country. In addition to these people, right? If you have a valid visa, and you use that visa to enter the US and you're here lawfully and you were fingerprinted as part of that visa, obtaining that visa, you are considered registered. You do not have to register. Also, if you have a valid I-94 document, so say you're from a visa exempt country like Canada or Bermuda, you entered the US and you were issued an I-94 document, you are considered registered. And another category is if you've received a notice to appear in immigration court, an NTA, you're considered registered, so no need to register it again. Similarly, border crossing cards, if you have one of those, if you have a landing permit as a crewman, you're considered registered. So a very long list of individuals who are lawfully present in the US are already considered registered. So if you fall into any one of these categories of individuals I just mentioned, you do not have to submit this new registration requirement. Now, there's a couple things I want everyone to be careful with. So if you've not been issued an I-94, but you're here lawfully, so the main individuals where this may come up are Canadians who entered through a land crossing. So if you entered via on a plane or via sea and passed through a regular border checkpoint as a Canadian, it's virtually guaranteed that you were issued an I-94 document. But if you entered through a land crossing, so say you're crossing, you're driving your car and you cross a land border from Canada, sometimes CBP does not issue you an I-94. So individuals who are in the US and were not issued an I-94, Canadians in this example, those individuals are not considered registered. So in those cases, you need to comply with this registration requirement. However, keep in mind that the majority of individuals crossing from Canada have in fact been issued an I-94. So you can check online, literally just Google I-94, it'll take you to the CBP website. And if you have not been issued an I-94, you can reach out to the customs, the border checkpoint, the It's called a port of entry, and asks them to generate an I-94 record. So the bottom line is, instead of registering, you can also coordinate with the border checkpoint where you crossed the border. But again, just to summarize this, Canadians who have been here for more than 30 days who have not been issued an I-94, so again, it's most likely someone who crossed via land crossing, need to be careful of this requirement. Now, another category of individuals who have to be very careful are children who are in the country, who entered with a valid visa while they were under the age of 14, but turned 14 while in the US. Because children under 14 are generally not fingerprinted for visa purposes, and while they do have a visa, they do have an I-94, they turn 14 while in the country. So generally speaking, the way the rule is written, it requires these children who are now over 14 to register because they don't have a new I-94. Now, what some people are choosing to do, instead of registering, they're simply traveling in and out of the country with the valid visa. Now the child's 14 entering, they have an I-94 record. You no longer need to register in that case. But again, just be aware, if you turned 14, or if your child turned 14 while here in valid, non-immigrant status, whether it's H4 or O3 or whatever other non-immigrant status, L2, just be aware of this registration requirement. So let's say you don't fall into one of the exceptions and you're not considered an already registered foreign national, and you have to go ahead and register. What is it that you have to do? Well, you have to create a USCIS online account and submit a form called the G325R, G325R form, which will result in your registration, and you will attend a biometrics appointment where immigration will take your fingerprints, and that will constitute you having registered. Now, the question is, for those who do have to comply with this requirement and aren't considered already registered, is what are the benefits and the disadvantages of registering? Well, first and foremost, the number one benefit is that you're complying with the law, right? Like, you're required to do this. This is the new law. And by fulfilling this, by registering, you're fulfilling the requirement. In addition to that, many applications, right? Immigration applications that you may have filed have a discretionary component. What that means is that the USCIS officer, the immigration officer, can decide whether or not to grant your case in the end or to approve your application. Now, in that analysis, USCIS going forward will consider whether or not you have registered. So if you have not registered, it could be held against you in that analysis. On the other hand, by registering, you're providing your information to U.S. immigration, which can be used to enforce immigration rules against you, right? So my advice to anyone, if you know you have to register and you're not considered an already registered foreign national, please reach out to your immigration lawyer and create a plan for what the best strategy is in your case. There are two other things I want to mention quickly that were part of this update. So number one, in addition to this registration requirement, any foreign national going forward in the US is required to carry proof of registration if they've been here for more than 30 days. So to put this simply, it means you have to carry proof of status, right? So you have to carry your permanent resident card with you, you have to carry your employment authorization document with you, your I-94 record, your visa, basically to be able to prove status. Now, the question I've been getting from everyone is, how likely is it that immigration will stop me? How likely is it that I'm going to be asked to provide status? To be very honest, it's unlikely, simply because we don't hear of many people getting stopped on the streets regularly, being asked, hey, what is your immigration status? Prove to me that you have immigration status. However, if you're nervous about this, which is understandable, then a simple solution is just to carry proof of valid immigration status with you, just like you would carry your driver's license. And that way, if you are in a situation where you are questioned by an officer about your immigration status, you can prove that you are in fact considered a registered foreign national under this rule. The second point here, right, that this update touched on that isn't related to the actual registration is that it again highlights that any foreign national in the country, even if you're a permanent resident, right, has to inform immigration about changes of address. So if you have moved, but in 10 days of moving, you have to file a form AR11. This has been a long-standing rule. It's just not regularly enforced. But again, USCIS in this update is reminding every foreign national to make sure that they do this. So please, remember that if you are moving, within 10 days of moving, changing your primary address, you have to file a Form AR11. You can do this in your online USCIS account. You can do this online, the USCIS website, or you can also do it by paper by just printing the form and mailing it to USCIS. And that's all on the registration requirement. I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, please like it and follow the channel, and I'll try to post more relevant content. Thank you so much.